With Castlevania Season 3, we finally get a sequel season that doesn't disappoint. For anyone not in the know, Castlevania is a hit animated series on Netflix based on a classic Nintendo Entertainment System series of games. Really, the height was number 1, number 2, number 3. It fell into obscurity for a while and sort of came back. It's basically the story of the Belmont family, who are monster and or vampire hunters. The original bad guy was Dracula. He comes back for many different sequels, and even his son Alucard shows up. This show is based on the third game in the series, where you switch between 3 different characters. You have the Belmont, who uses a whip. You have a magic lady, and Alucard, the son of Dracula. Season 1 was a surprise hit with only 4 animated episodes by the same company that does Seis Manos. They take a very adult approach to this animation. The animation itself is fully rendered. It's not very cartoonish. The dialogue, there's lots of swearing, lots of sex, people getting drunk. It's pretty good overall. Season 1 was only 4 episodes, but the sequel season was very much anticipated. Season 1, Dracula's human wife was killed by members of the church. Now, I don't remember. It's been a while since I've watched it, and I'm sure someone will let me know. But was it actually Christian and or Catholic in the first season? I think they left it kind of blank. It was clearly an allegory for the Catholic Church of the Middle Ages, but it didn't seem to actually, they didn't want to call it out, at least at that point. So in order to get revenge, Dracula sends an army of undead creatures to just destroy every human he can. Season 2, they really elaborate on it. They elaborate on his forces, on different armies of vampires who come. He has these 2 people called Forgemasters who are able to take the bodies of the dead and put souls that are in hell in there. It was very cool. It was very big. Dracula was going to take over all of Europe, at least to start. But in the end, he was defeated by Simon Belmont. Or sorry, not Simon, Trevor. Simon was the grandfather, I believe, of Trevor. And it was a great season, and it kind of left me wondering, where the heck are we going to go now? Season 3, they could have gone 2 directions. One is somehow you have to go bigger than the greatest vampire of all time, taking over at least a continent, or you go small. And that's exactly what they chose for season 3. Now, some people will say this is kind of a placeholder season and this is just a setup season. Now, I define a setup season as we have all these cool ideas that we really want to do, but we sort of have to explain it. We have to give you some setup, and they needed 10 episodes for that. I took a lot of flack in my review of The Expanse Season 4, saying that was a setup season because nothing really happened, nothing interesting anyways, and it really just set up all these potential conflicts for Season 5. That kind of happens here, but the story is so well written that it becomes important in and of itself. When we start off, we have Trevor and Sypha going through the countryside, cleaning up different creatures of the night. They seem to be enjoying themselves, having a good old time, boning a lot, and they end up in this little village where they drag in, looks like a werewolf or something. And in this village, they find that there was a priory, a monk cloister in a very nice cathedral-type building. And these monks were weird. They seem to really like Dracula. They missed him. They wanted him back, which is very strange for humans. There is a town judge, and the judge sort of wants them to stay around. There's a new mysterious character named Saint Germain. He's comes off as sort of a charlatan magician, but it ends up he may know real magics. He is also there. He's looking for a doorway that can lead to different worlds. He lost somebody, a female, to this other place. We're not really sure exactly what happened, but he's been looking all over Europe trying to get her back, and it leads him to the doorway. This is an interesting development because what it sets up is there was a night creature that convinced all of these monks that they should help him in order to bring Dracula and his wife back from hell. This whole season is them trying to figure out what exactly is going on, taking this overarching mission and making it small. They meet several members of the town. They get to like the people. They get to like the town. Sypha and Trevor, they contemplate settling down and just having a house and waking up in the same bed every morning. So the characters have an arc. Trevor, he gets to see what a normal person is, or gets to see what Sypha's life is. By the end, Sypha sees just how bad it is and how bad it is when you get to know and trust people on a personal level. At the end, Trevor says to her, "For the last few months, we've been living my life. Now," Trevor says to her, "For the last few months, we've been living your life. Now you're living mine." In addition to this, we have a lot of separate storylines. Alucard is still back at Dracula's castle in the Belmont estate. There's two, what I believe are supposed to be Japanese people, come to him looking for help. There was a female vampire, Cho, who had taken over at least part of Japan. And they're looking for help in order to defeat vampires. Alucard is going kind of crazy because he's been alone for months while Trevor and Sypha are out. So he starts to teach them. In a very weird turn of events, we end up with a threesome. I guess Alucard swings both ways. And during this threesome, they bind him with some magical something, and they say they're going to torture him unless he tells them how to move the castle. And they want to use all his secrets, all his powers. But, of course, he kills him. And it makes me wonder, there wasn't a whole lot of an arc here, but it makes me wonder if we're going to see a darker Alucard, maybe one who goes more towards his vampire ancestry instead of just the human. So, in addition to that, we have mostly the story of the Forgemasters. At the end of season 2, we left Isaac the Forgemaster. Dracula pushed him through a portal, and he's somewhere in a desert. Africa or the Middle East, we're not entirely sure. He creates more of these night creatures from some bandits who attack him, and he goes up the coast. We start the season here where he's in a town. He's going to look for a ship to sail over to Europe. He meets one guy who's nice and gives him a gift, a mirror that shows him more or less what he wants. And that was the first nice person to him. He then goes to the port. He meets a captain who agrees to let him sail across with all of his night creatures. And Isaac sort of becomes a softie after this. And we sort of start to see his character change a little bit. He wants revenge on Hector for betraying Dracula in the previous season. Now, Isaac had wanted to exterminate all humans because he thought humans were disgusting. No one ever treated him kindly, blah, blah, blah. But now he does start to get treated kindly. And he's eventually put in a situation where he frees a whole town's worth of people from magical enslavement. Now, they're all dead at the end, and maybe he's going to use their bodies to make an army, but who really knows? Then we have Hector. Hector was taken prisoner by Camilla, who is another vampire general lady, and she marches him back to her kingdom. She and her 3 sisters want to reenact Dracula's plan of creating a large area in Eastern Europe where humans are basically farmed for their eternal drinking. Needless to say, poor Hector sort of ends up the way of Reek from Game of Thrones. He's abused, but eventually Lenore, one of the vampire sisters, gains his trust and he becomes her pet. So we will see what happens to him in the future. Now, this overall has great writing, great animation. The pacing is pretty good. But the one thing that really strikes me as odd is the hate boner that this company seems to have against Christianity. So, like I said before, this is the company that made Seis Manos, which had very negative portrayals of Catholics. And it really continues on here. There is just no redeeming feature for any of the Christians. You think maybe they would go Protestant, if not Catholic, but no. And this is kind of an interesting thing to me, which is one of the downfalls of this series. They're sort of digging themselves into a hole. So they have hell. They have imagery of hell. In this season, they had various angels who come up from hell. So it leads to, is there Satan? It seems to be a yes. We haven't seen him. And if there's a Satan, there must be a God. So what's going on with Christianity? Why are there no forces from the church, Knights Templar, secret Vatican strike force? How come there's none of that doing anything in this countryside? There was a huge vampire army problem. You would think the neighboring countries would be doing something about that, but so far there's been no reaction. We have creatures of the night destroying Genoa. That's right on Rome's door. You would think a crusade would be called for or something. So it sort of doesn't make sense. It also doesn't make sense that there are no redeeming Christians at all. It's strange because if you pick a Christian archetype, which Satanism, or at least the belief in Satan, is part of, then you must also therefore have God. And if you do, in this paradigm, God should always come out on top. So the question is, what's going on? Is evil as strong as good? Is there some reason why God or Jesus, or at least their forces, aren't doing anything? It's something that, although I like the show, it really kind of bugs me. I really want that explored more. And it's a similar issue in Seis Manos. There's all this evil, like objectively evil spirits and black magic, and there's no one on the side that's ostensibly good doing anything about it. So, all right, that's my review. I like it. Definitely looking forward to season 4. Tell me what did you guys think of Netflix Castlevania season 3? If you haven't subscribed, click the subscribe button, give it a thumbs up, and let me know what you think.